Hey, how's it going? And welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be covering the real reason your paid ads aren't converting and what you can do to finally make them profitable. If you're a service-based business owner that sells something for at least $3,000, whether it's B2B or B2C, and you just can't seem to get your ads profitable, I'm going to cover what very well could be the exact reason why your ads are not working and why all the stuff you tried has not worked. If you're like me, you probably worked with every agency, consultant, coach, program, anything you could get your hands on to try and crack cold traffic and finally make it work. But no matter what you did, even if you implemented everything they said to do, nothing worked. I myself have personally invested over $100,000 on paid ads trying to figure out how to get them profitable. And I've invested in tons of programs that told me that they could help me do it, 15K on one, 12K on another, 5K here, 7K there. And I just never got results. And it was super frustrating because I was working with other clients, helping them with sales processes on the organic side. So people who are coming through referrals, also coming through on social media and helping them generate revenue from those audiences. But I could just not get cold traffic to work. And then I'd go work with these companies and they'd all tell me the same thing. They'd say, oh, it's your offer, it's your funnel, it's your ad creatives. And I changed so many funnels. I tried all of the funnel strategies. I tested thousands or probably more like hundreds of ads and all these creatives and just nothing worked. And I was getting so mad because I just over and over tried and just I couldn't figure it out. And honestly, I kind of stopped and like shifted away from paid ads, just focused entirely on the organic stuff. But it sucked because I knew if we really wanted to help people scale quickly, we had to figure out cold traffic because once you can put money in and know you get more money out on the other side of paid ads, you just keep putting money into it and you can scale, exponentially. Whereas with organic, it's kind of a slower growth and it's great. You can generate a lot of income and a lot of revenue. But if we really wanted to help people scale quickly, we had to crack paid ads. Now, the funny thing about this is I finally got paid ads working when I stopped thinking about the marketing side. And I actually was working with another sales trainer and they were talking about what it takes to actually convert cold traffic on a sales call. And once I had that realization, I took that same concept of what they were doing to convert like ice cold traffic to close clients on sales calls and put it into the marketing. So instead of having to go through the hard process of doing that on a sales call, you could handle everything before the call and get people going to your calls that came from cold traffic saying things like, look, I love what you guys do. I just want to learn how I can work exactly for me. Or, hey, look, I'm ready to get started. I just have a few questions. Let's clean that up. And then I'm ready to go because they were pre-sold before they actually got on that call. So we're going to dive into exactly how it works. But first, I'm going to give you some context so you can see the actual psychology, like the buyer psychology that makes this work, and also explains why a lot of the stuff you've already tried hasn't really worked. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the common mistake everyone makes. You've probably made it, I made it, and it's because it's what most people out there tell you to do. Again, that's creatives, funnels, offers, things like that. But the truth about all that kind of stuff is that it's only a distribution method. So a funnel is just a way to distribute your message to your desired audience. Different ad platforms are just different places to put your message in front of the right audience. And since you've probably already tried, a few different funnels or maybe a couple different ad platforms and you still struggled with cold traffic, clearly it's not the funnel. It's not the ads. It has to be something much deeper. And I knew that, but I could never figure out what exactly it was. That was until I started working with that sales trainer and they kind of taught me that process of here's how we take cold traffic to close clients. I realized the reason that most people aren't able to get their funnels, their ads working and scalable and profitable is because they don't create a belief shift and their messaging doesn't stand out and doesn't shift how the person thinks about their problem. If you don't do this in your ads, in your funnels, nothing else is going to work. And once I noticed that, I started toying around with the concept of what I call the decision reframe. And that's how before the call, we actually take someone, reframe their beliefs around how to solve their problem, which leaves us as the best and only option to buy from. Now, I'm going to get more into how that works, how you can actually do it yourself and how to implement it. But for now, I just want you to see the higher level understanding of why a lot of the stuff you're trying isn't working right now, and what the real problem is and how you can solve that problem. So let's go ahead and dive into the most important part. And this is really what explains it all. So this is the buyer journey and the levels of awareness. This is the psychological process someone goes through to go from unaware, like literally not caring what you have or what you offer or what you do, or not caring about what you offer or what you do, down to buying and actually purchasing your service or your product. So I'm going to quickly go through these and then I'll give you a real world example that should help you understand it a bit better, make things a bit more clear because it can be kind of confusing. So first is unaware. These people don't know they have a problem yet. They don't care who you are or what you do at all. Next is problem aware. They know that something isn't working. They've got some problem or some pain, or they're not able to achieve some goal, but they don't know how to solve it. Next is going to be solution aware. So now they know they have a problem and they're looking at potential solutions out there that could solve that problem. Next is going to be product aware. So they've decided on one of those solutions to solve their problem. And now they're just comparing the different offers. So other, different service providers or products, whatever it is. And then last is most aware. They're basically sold. They just need something to kind of push them over the edge, give them a little nudge to become a client. Now, I'm going to give you the example of chiropractic and back pain because it's a very clear example and it shows this very well. And most people kind of understand the concept. So that way you can quickly get how the levels of awareness actually work and how people move through them. So first, we would have someone who has no back pain. They don't care that you can help with they don't care that we're able to help their back pain because they don't have back pain. They don't care. Next is going to be someone with back pain. So now this person's like, man, my back is killing me. I got to figure out something. I got to fix this. Next, after that, is they're going to say, okay, I got this problem with back pain. What can I do to solve it? And this is where they start looking at different categories of solution. So for back pain, one category could be chiropractic. Another could be massage. Another could be stretching. Another could be surgery. Like these are all categories of potential solutions. So what they're going to do, now they have this problem. Now they're looking at all their solutions. The next step is they're going to pick one of them. So they're going to say, okay, I want to go with chiropractic. I think that's going to be the best solution to my problem. Now they're going to go down the category of chiropractic and they're going to start comparing all the chiropractors that can help them with chiropractic work. And then once they've looked at all of those, they're going to decide on like one or two that they want to go with. And now it's just kind of getting them over that finish line and moving them forward. So now that you see how that works, let's get into why most people struggle with their paid ads. So when you run ads, whether you're running ads that talk about the pain or whether you're running ads that talk about the prospects, or you're just giving them a direct offer like, hey, we can help you achieve this in this time period, no matter what, the amount of leads that you're going to bring in, or the percentage of leads you're going to bring in that are ready to buy, is very, very small. It's only like 3 to 10% of your total market. So what happens is when you run organic or you're bringing in like warm referrals or anything like that, say you get 100 sales calls from your warm audiences. Of that, of those 100 sales calls, like 90% of those are going to be product aware and most aware. They already know they have a problem. They already decided on whatever solution you offer. So say you're an accountant, they already decided they need an accountant and they have a pretty good idea of what your offer is, or when they get on the sales call, that's what they want to learn more about, is what your offer is. And then you convert them. So we talk to a lot of people who do like warm organic stuff, and they say things like, I close at 60 or 70% with the leads that are, coming in from warm. And that's great. That's because all of them are already product and most aware. That's why you can convert so many people on warm. But when you go over to cold traffic, it's the total opposite. The percentage of people who are actually coming through product aware is going to be like 3 to 10%. So now you've got this whole group of people who are only aware that they have a problem, or they're looking at other potential solutions. They haven't yet decided that the solution you offer is the right one for them. So if you think about it, And we're going to kind of break down the numbers a bit here in a second. But when you get on these calls, that's why you hear things, because they don't know what you do yet, or they haven't really decided on your solution. That's why you hear things like, what do you do again? Like, why are we on this call? Well, how is this going to help me? Or, oh, just let me think about it. Like, give us 60 days and then we'll come back around it. What really is happening there is they're not tying your product to their problem. They're in their head, they don't see the clear path of like, how is this product or this service or whatever you're offering going to solve my problem? So you close at very low percentages. And if we actually break down the numbers, funny enough, again, remember, we talked about product aware and most aware, it's only going to be about 3 to 10%. So if we look at the sales calls generated from paid ads, say you got a total of 100 sales calls. From our math, we know that 10% of those calls are going to be ready to buy. So 100 sales calls, 10% are ready to buy. That means we'll have 10 sales calls that are going to be in the buyer's mindset. Now, if you close at 20%, or say even 25% or 30%, you're only going to close 3 sales out of 100 sales calls. That's why when you feel like you're getting bad quality leads, it's not because they're actually bad quality. If you're filtering people out with an application and they're coming through, but they're still not good quality, or even if you're not, honestly, even if you're just letting people through and they're bad quality, it's probably not because the lead's actually bad. What's more likely happening is you're getting a ton of people who are up here and they're just aware they have a problem, or they're just aware, or they're just kind of in the phase where they're looking at potential solutions to their problem. They're not sold on the solution. So they're not ready to take an offer yet. They're not at that point and they're not in a buyer's mindset. Okay. So if we look here, you're closing at this very low percent because a small portion is ready to buy. So the key here is once you realize that, it doesn't mean you give up on cold traffic and say, oh, this is impossible. It's never going to work for me. There's not enough people out there that are ready to buy. What you need to do is create a process or a system to actually convert more people over into this buyer's mindset before they get on the call with you. And that's all we do with the decision reframe. The whole focus of it is to make that switch to get more people getting on the calls. So instead of 10% being product aware, now we're looking at 70, 80, 90%. And once you do that, you're going to get better quality leads because they're not going to get on asking, what do you do? How can you help me? All those generic questions that you struggle closing because they're not buying questions, they're education questions. They're not going to, so the leads aren't going to be bad. You're going to convert at higher levels because people are going to get on calls saying, I love what you do. Let me see how this works for me specifically. Now they want to know about your offer. They're in that buyer's mindset. So once you create that shift, that's what's going to change these numbers drastically. And once you do that, that's what's going to crack cold traffic for you. This is the problem I ran into for so long. Low close rates, tons of calls, and people would always ask me, what do you do? What do you do? And what they're asking is not what do you do as in how do you fulfill the service, which is how I would usually answer, and then we wouldn't close them. What they're actually asking is, what is your unique solution for solving my problem? And of course, they're never going to say that because they would never think that in their head. But when they ask that question, what do you do? That's ultimately what they're asking. What is your unique solution? How is it going to solve my problem? Why should I pick you or your solution or your strategy over everything else out there that's supposed to fix my problem? Okay. So now we're going to go into the 2 sales that you must make in every sales process. So we've got the ad goes out, brings someone in, they schedule a call. Now, before they get on that sales call, we need to sell them on the solution, not your product, not your service, your solution. And I'm going to go back up actually to kind of drill this further. People are here or here. They have a problem. They don't know that there's a solution for it. Or they're here. They know there are solutions out there. They haven't picked one yet. So to get them to the point where they're down here and saying, hey, what is your offer? What can you actually do for me? How can you deliver this solution? We need to get these people sold on our solution, your unique way of getting them the desired outcome, your unique way of solving this problem for them. And if they don't do that, if you don't do that before the call, you're going to end up with a ton of people who are not going to convert. It's going to be very hard to convert cold traffic if you don't do this. So now we'll go back down here. You're going to sell them the solution, the approach, your method, not your service, not your offer, not any of that. You're selling the solution, your unique way of getting them the offer. Once they're bought in on that, then you sell them the product. And when you sell them on the solution, what you're trying to do is create a belief shift in what they think and believe is the best solution to their problem. So again, if they're solution aware, they're looking at all these other options, they're not sure which option is best. Your job is to show them why your option is or your solution is the best. So then once they decide on that, they're going to buy your product because now they know, okay, I need this solution from this person. And since you're the only person that offers this, which we'll get into in a second, they have to buy from you. This is the most important. I'm telling you, this is what takes unprofitable campaigns to profitable. My guess is if you are running to a warm audience, you're making at least like 30, 50, 100K, 250, 500K, a million a month, somewhere in that range. Like literally, if you just are semi-successful, you're doing 30, 40, 50K a month, you have something that can work on cold traffic, but you need to adapt your process to work with cold traffic. Cold and warm are not the same, as I'm showing you right here. And if you keep trying to sell cold traffic like you sell warm traffic, it will not convert. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. You should just focus on warm. But if you're willing to make this change and you're willing to do what it takes to make cold traffic work, you can scale so fast because it's just put in more money, out comes more revenue, comes more revenue and profit, obviously. But this is if you make this shift, I'm telling you, this is what cracks cold traffic. And I've seen it time and time again. I'll get into some examples in a few minutes, but you've got to do that. So now I want to give you actually an example of, this is kind of a made up example. I'm going to give you real world examples later on. This is just something I put together to kind of start to solidify in your head, like how this actually works. So you can see an example. I personally learn from examples. So I always like to give examples for everything. Maybe I'm just a slower learner that way, but beside the point. So the first thing we're going to talk about, or this example is going to be, let's say you're a cash flow consultant for business owners. Your product might be, we'll review the books, meet monthly, help you manage burn rate. Cool. Not exciting at all. Everyone says that. Accountant A, B, and C, the CFO, all these other people are going to say the same exact thing. And it's going to be very hard to convert cold traffic because they're like, yeah, I mean, this other guy said that too, but he's cheaper, so I'm going to go there. Or I'm someone who's just like, man, my cash flow it's horrible. I can't manage it. And then you come on and you tell me you're going to review my books and meet with me monthly and help me manage my burn rate. Like, what are you talking? I don't need that. I need someone to help me fix my cash flow. That's my problem. Do you see how there's not a connect there? Do you see, like, that's you got to get through that. So instead, you would want to say something like, most businesses struggle with cash flow because they're using outdated forecasting methods that only look backward, not forward. We've developed a system that predicts your cash position 90 days in advance, so you're never blindsided by payroll, inventory, or tax surprises. See how that's unique? We've developed the system. It already makes you unique. You have some unique solution or process or way of providing or of solving that problem. So now if I get on a call with them and I say, man, my cash flow is constrained, and they hit me with this, I'm going to say, man, I never thought of it that way. They're right. Like, if I did know this ahead of time, I wouldn't have as many problems. Boom. Now that's a solution that's worth buying. And now they can pitch me on why their product is the best way to get that solution. So once they believe in your unique solution or unique method, they'll want to know, how do I get that? And that's where you can go ahead and pitch them. And it's because you shifted that belief and showed them, hey, this is actually the problem, not what you're thinking it is or whatever it might seem like it is or what other people have told you. Here's how you're going to actually solve this. So let's get into what the decision reframe actually is and how to implement it. So I'm going to kind of go off script here because this is kind of in the weeds. I'll reference some of this stuff, but really to give you the high level overview of how this works. What you're trying to accomplish is you're trying to say, here is your problem. Here's all the other stuff. There are all the other symptoms. So you're like, hey, my cash flow is restrained. I'm worried about payroll. There's all this other stuff that's going on. I've got all these problems. And what most people do, or most prospects, have kind of an idea of what they think the problem is. And then they're going to go out and look at all the other solutions of what people say the alternative solutions. So like accountants and CFOs, tax software, all this other stuff. And your job with the decision reframe is to bring them in with the problem that they think they have, but then show them what the actual problem is. So you want a core belief shift in what they think their problem is. And once you give them that, no one else is talking about it. So it makes you the only person who knows their actual problem. Then you provide a solution that solves that problem. Now, I know it sounds confusing, but it's very, very clear when you see it. So I'll get into some examples here. So let's go down here. So quick example, let's say, again, manage cash flow. Your prospects have probably already heard, use a cash flow spreadsheet, a better accounting system, short-term loans, all that kind of stuff. But instead, what you want to do is come in and say, hey, the reason those things don't work long term is because they all focus on reacting to problems after they show up. Our system actually predicts, or more or less what you want to do is kind of predict out your cash position 90 days out using forward-looking forecasting, scenario modeling, and dynamic revenue planning. So you fix these problems before they even happen. So now you have the prospect thinking, oh, he's right. If I keep reacting to this stuff, I'm going to keep having all of these problems. But if I forecast it out, then I'm not going to have to worry about all of this stuff because I'll know ahead of time and I can fix the issues before they happen. Boom. You just created a decision reframe. Now the prospect believes they have a different problem, which is that they're not forecasting out their cash position. And once you show them that, then you talk about your solution of, we're going to help you, or we've got this system that predicts it, so on and so forth. And then your product or service is how you implement that for them or show them how to do it, etc. When you do that effectively, you don't just get more leads, you're going to get better leads. People show up more excited. They're pre-sold. They're asking, how does this work for me personally? I love what you guys do. That's why this reframe is so powerful. So now let's get into one other thing that's very, very cool about this. And this is kind of like a secondary benefit of using this. First, we use this to create profitable cold traffic. So we want to run ads. We want to get people getting on those calls excited, ready to buy, buyer's mindset, profitable ads. But what this also does is it takes you from generic positioning and puts you in unshoppable positioning. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. Generic positioning is, hey, I'm an accountant. We help with Facebook ads. We're a recruiting firm. People immediately compare you to others. Like right there, you could probably even feel it. If I said, hey, I'm an accountant, you're like, a million accounts. Immediately, that's what you think. So they start comparing you to others, and then they can go start price shopping you. So now you're kind of a race to the bottom because, a prospect comes to you and they're like, hey, I want to work with you, but like this guy's cheaper. And you're like, well, let me lower my costs and we'll do it for you for, $500 less a month just so we can get you through. And you just start your profitability shrink. But if you have the decision reframe, you have a unique solution to the problem you're showing them they actually have. You have unshoppable positioning because now you're able to say, hey, here's your actual problem. We help you solve this problem with this unique solution, and no one else is going to have it because it's your specific process or way or system for solving that problem and ultimately achieving the outcome that they want. Now, one thing I want to mention is a lot of people think that they don't have something unique about what they do. Like, oh, we just do this the same way as everyone else. And it's not true. There's actually like a psychological, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but there's something in psychology that says people devalue the knowledge that they have because they feel like everyone else has it. But I promise you, if you can honestly say to yourself, I have a great service, I do great work, and I'm better than my competitors, you have a specific reason you say that. You just haven't pulled it out yet. You're just not talking about it in your marketing. And once you do that, now you're going to rise to the top because everyone else is going to keep saying, I'm an accountant. And you're going to say, I'm an accountant, or I'm not. You're not going to say, I'm an accountant. You're going to say, I have this specific, unique solution, this unique strategy to get this desired outcome. And people are not going to go to those other accountants. They're going to want that unique solution. And that's going to create you what a lot of people call a category king or a market leader, and you'll have full market domination. That's the amazing thing about this is it's not just going to create profitable ads. it's going to rise all boats because now you can talk about it on your website. You're going to bring in more warm traffic. You're going to get more referrals because people are going to be talking about this strategy. It's an amazing thing. I mean, once you just make the shift, it's game over. There's so much that you can do with it. You can go speak. I mean, it's unbelievable. So now let's get into some more specific real world examples. So I actually have a friend who's a financial advisor. When I first started talking to him about this, I asked him, like, what do you do? And he's like, well, I help with retirement planning and wealth preservation. And I'm like, well, that's probably not going to do too well on cold traffic. I can almost guarantee that. I know for a fact it won't, actually, because I've tried it a million times. It never works. So instead, we start digging into his process. And what we found is he likes to work with high net worth individuals. And they actually kind of have a combination of like muni bonds and pre IPO stuff that they put together to create like this really unique investment strategy. And once we found that, it's like, dude, you gotta just talk about that. So now when people are like, what do you do? He says, we work with high net worth individuals to build tax-free income using a strategy called the IPO Shield. It essentially combines muni bonds with pre-IPO equity placements to maximize upside and minimize tax exposure. Do you hear the difference in that? Like, I that's amazing. Like, it's night and day. That gets me excited. The other thing does not get me excited. And he's my friend. I mean, transparently, I'd be like, dude, that's not good. Like, that sounds boring. That second option with that reframe, and there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it, like showing them the real problem. This is just that hook. I mean, man, that's so much more powerful. So now, again, imagine that person goes and tries to shop them around. Go to another financial advisor. Hey, do you offer like this IPO Shield thing? And they're like, what are you talking about? They're like, yeah, it's like, muni bonds and pre-IPO equities. And they're like, I have no idea what they're talking about or what you're talking about. Like, I've never heard of that. And then they come back to my friend and they're like, hey, this guy hasn't heard of it. And he's like, yeah, because it's our unique strategy. We built this and we've tested it over the past decade and we've proven it out. And here are the results. Here's all the people we've worked with. Like, dude, that's how you convert cold traffic. It's a different game. You're playing at a different level and your competitors will not be able to compete with you. To give you a few other examples, Cole Gordon, he actually coined the term called appointment setters. You may or may not know who he is, but his company went from zero. I think they're doing like 3.5 million a month now. And they did it in like, I think it was 36 months or something crazy, super fast. And it's because he came to the market with a unique solution for a problem that they had. People were running ads, they were booking sales calls, but they had all these leads that didn't schedule. So he came out and said, hey, we'll give you an appointment setter who will call all those leads and turn them into more appointments. So you're going to have the same amount of ad spend, but you're going to get more appointments from it. Boom, took off. People started buying it like crazy because it solved a problem that they had in a unique way. If he just came out and said like, hey, we'll call your leads for you, it's like, that's boring. Like, no one cares. Like, I don't need you to call my leads. But he came out and said, hey, if your ads are profitable, or even if they're break even, the reason is not because your funnel isn't good enough. It's because your leads aren't being called. And if you get more leads coming or getting those, if you're calling those leads and getting more to book calls, now your cost per call goes from like 150, 200, 250 down to like 50 or 60 or 70. And that's how he kind of shifted their belief on what the actual problem was. That's a great example. And that's obviously why they grew so fast, because that's what he did. He did this exact concept to a T. Another one is Neil Patel, dominates SEO. If you look up SEO, there's a 90% chance that he's going to be on YouTube or Google talking about SEO. And that's his unique solution. He always says, like, if you want to grow, SEO, 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 SEO. Gary Vee's another one. He hammers on content marketing. That's his solution for everything. Content marketing. And that's his unique solution. He's the king of that. That's why these are huge names, because they dominate on one unique solution that they essentially claim for themselves. And you might be thinking, well, other people talk about content marketing too, but are they Gary Vee? No. Are they Neil Patel? No, they're not. And there's a reason, because they're the people who really push this out into the market as the solution to a very specific problem that their audience had. Next is going to be Apple. This is kind of a different example because theirs is technology based. It's a bit harder comparison, but it still shows you the concept of, think about phones before the iPhone. They were horrible, like Blackberries, flip phones. It was terrible. And Apple came out and totally changed the way people thought about what a phone was, what it could do. I mean, it was connected to the internet, now social media, all this stuff that went into it. And that's because they created a belief shift and showed people, hey, your phone is not just a phone. It can be all of these other things too. And that's why everyone has an iPhone now. Okay. So again, to kind of dig deeper on this, they didn't just sell products, they sold a new way of solving a problem. They created belief in their approach and the market just followed. Once you show people, hey, your problem's not this, it's actually this. One thing I do want to say, kind of off topic, I can't remember if I said it or not, but this needs to be real. Don't try to create something unique that's not actually unique, or it's just made up, or it doesn't actually help people. Your strategy, your unique solution to the problem needs to actually work. For example, like with my friend, that strategy is real. Like it actually works. Same thing with Cole Gordon, appointment centers. It actually works. Neil Patel, Gary Vee, Apple. Like it's all stuff that actually works and actually does solve the problem. You don't want to come out and just say, oh, I have this unique funnel. Because what's going to happen is you might be able to sell people, but they're going to be pissed when they don't get results. So make sure that it actually works, or you're just going to be shooting yourself in the foot. Okay. So now to quickly recap. Most of your market is problem aware or solution aware, not product aware. Okay. Remember that funnel that I showed you, where most people are going to come in product and solution aware. If you're having trouble closing cold traffic, it's because you're not making that reframe and you're just closing that small percent of the market, like literally 3%, that is ready to buy. So we got to get more of those people on those calls ready to buy. So it's not 3 to 10%, it's like 70, 80% of those calls are like ready to buy. And the other 20%, then we're going to work with them long-term nurture, follow-up stuff. But if you can get 70 to 80% of those calls showing up like, hey, I love what you guys do, let's talk about how it helps me, dude, your profitability on your ads is going to be great. That's what we're looking to create and have people thinking when they show up to that call. So if you're struggling, you're likely skipping the first sale, belief in your solution, and this is why your leads aren't converting. That's why you're only closing a tiny slice of your total pipeline from cold. The decision reframe is what fixes that. It creates a belief shift before the pitch. And by reframing how they see the problem, you make your solution the obvious choice. And once they believe in the solution, they see your product as the only way to get it. You become unshoppable and your sales process becomes way easier. Now you can scale cold ads because you're actually converting the traffic. And that's really it. I mean, that's once you do this, this is the thing. Again, you can do this in the sales process. It's very difficult. It's much easier to do it in your marketing. And once you do it in your marketing, I mean, again, the biggest shift is going to be going from having calls that are like, what do you do? And you're like, God, these leads are terrible. Like this agency or this coaching program, whoever I'm working with, like these leads suck. It's not actually the leads. The real problem is they're not in the right buyer's mindset because they haven't had the decision reframe. Once they have that, they'll start getting on calls like, dude, I love what you guys do. I'm super pumped. Like, I just need to kind of learn a bit more about like how we're actually going to implement this. And then you're in a normal sales conversation like you would if you were coming, if people were coming from organic. It really is that simple. I mean, it's an awesome thing once you start making that. So that all being said, once you make that change, higher show rates, better quality, more leads, the right people, more profit, more scalability, market domination, the list goes on and on. That's why we're so excited about this process. And like I said, once I kind of figured this out, everything changed. It made complete sense. And then you start to see other companies that do the same thing. And you're like, oh, that makes sense why this guy took off. That makes sense why this guy took off. Like, this is what his unique solution is. And that's why he's blowing up. And these companies, once they figure that out, like you just scale so aggressively. Again, Cole Gordon's a great example, from like 0 to 3.5 million in like 36 months, I think 3 years. That's unheard of. Another one who does a really good job of this is Jeremy Miner. He's got the NEPQ. That's his unique solution. So he's going out to all these salespeople and saying, hey, are you tired of trying to struggle with all this stuff? NEPQ is the solution. Boom. He took off. They're making tons of money as well. So that all being said, that is the power of this system. If you want help with this, go ahead and schedule a call at onigroup.com. If you're not making more than $30,000 a month, like minimum, do not schedule a call. I just can't help you enough. There's not enough cash flow for us to invest enough in ads to make it make sense for you and for us. So if you're below 30K a month, please don't schedule a call. You can message me, put stuff in the comments. I'm happy to answer questions. We just can't help you actually implement this. But if you are 30K a month or more, we're going to analyze your offer. We're also going to analyze the messaging, your marketplace. We'll take a look at what the potential decision reframe could be and what your unique solution probably is, and then how you can ultimately implement that. Then, if you want us to help you implement it, great. We're happy to do so. We can talk more about what that looks like. If not, you can go ahead and take that, implement it yourself. And then if you have trouble implementing it, come back. We can talk about it or not. I hope you succeed with it. So no big deal at all. One other thing I do want to mention is you should have a 3K plus offer. If your offer is less than 3,000, we might be able to help you increase that price. I got another video on the channel talking about increasing price. But if it's anything below 3K that you don't think you could charge more than 3K for, probably can't help you there again because the economics of the funnel just don't work out. So yeah, that all being said, if you're the type of person who just wants to skip the learning curve, wants some help from us, and want us to show you what this would look like, go ahead, schedule that call, onaigroup.com, onaigroup.com, and I'm happy to help. All right. I will see you there.